The work, as mentioned in the motivations, is entitled "Composition for a Public Part," and it's made up of 3 parts, 3 different scores of music.
3 movements. I
3
call them actually
movements.
movements. Yeah.
And each one is accompanied by a libretto, also by a text. Yes. So I wanted to ask you to tell us something about these 3 movements.
Okay.
And
Sure. All right. Is it working?
I think so.
Yeah? Okay. No, I don't. Oh, yeah, now it's working.
Yeah, now it's working.
Okay. So composition for a public park is, as you mentioned, is a piece that is composed of 3 movements. Each movement has a different title and a different musical language and a different libretto, a text that is heard in the voice of a man and a woman. So movement 1 is titled Stasis and Majesty. And movement 1, well, the thing that connects all the movements is that they, through their textual component, is that they are sort of trying to find a place or to find the voice for a place where it's not describing, but trying to touch this place where we, as you know, citizens of a shared community, wherever we are in the world, are engaged with something that has to do with who we think we are, so something to do with how our understanding of ourself and our sense of ourself, and at the same time has to do with the world around us and what we think we're doing in that world. So I'm trying to sort of, you know, it's hard to explain exactly what this area is, but that's sort of the area I'm interested in. So it's not really about public and private. I think these are silly words to kind of simplify ideas, but it's kind of about this border between these 2 things that are, of course, you know, meshing into each other. There isn't a clear line between them. So that's just a very general sort of sense of what this libretto is about for the whole piece. But it takes different forms. So movement 1, Stasis and Majesty, starts through the voice of, you know, let's say the subjectivity of it is through the filter of an old man who is at parts, he is, you know, there is a bitterness, a certain bitterness, and at the same time, there's a certain fascination with the majesty of, I don't want to call it the majesty of life, but just the sense of, you know, the grandness of just existing, something like that. That's sort of the first movement. The second movement, which is called the revolving jewel, the gender is not very clear for the subject. So the subject is sort of, it's almost like at points it seems to be a male subject, and at points it seems to be a female subject. So the gender becomes a little bit fluid. But the libretto and the text is really dealing with emotions that revolve around seduction and loss, and the sense of being, you know, driven by certain motivations and driven by certain desires, and at the same time, the almost painful and I use the word beauty in this movement specifically, and painful and almost beautiful sense of something being completely lost. And there is a creature joining us. So that's the second movement. And then the third movement, which is called No Political Romanticism, is actually quite different. And it's designed to be, you know, in the sense that they're movement 1, movement 2, movement 3, something different happens. We move outside of the subjectivity of an individual or a character or, you know, a human being into, or it attempts or it tries to speak through the voice of forces. So the forces that I'm interested in that movement are the forces of anger and containment through the attempt at transformation and change. So there's something here in the third movement where it kind of opens up into almost something historical, but again, that is spoken through not a subjectivity, so it's not an individual, but it's almost trying to give voice to these forces. And it's as if these forces are addressing us as humans. So it says, you will become like this, or you will feel this, or you will do this. And it's sort of almost a description of a condition that inhabits us. In which there is anger and containment, these two things like kind of rotating around each other. And the title of that movement is very important for me, No Political Romanticism, and it's important that it's no political romanticism, not no to political romanticism. I think that's taking the two out of this phrase is significant.